Hey guys, Finnegan again. This is gonna be my first video in like 4 months, I think, like something like that. But I get a lot of questions from people about Cutter Tap, and one of the main ones is why should I subscribe to you guys instead of Six Prizes or someone's PC or Poke Beach or 60 cards. So I just kind of wanted to make a video answering that question so that every time I get that question I can just link them to this video and they can watch that. Because it gets kind of annoying having to repeat it over and over. But yeah, so that's just what this is going to be. If you don't like these kind of videos, you don't like that I did Cutter Tap, and you don't like that I have a business here and I'm not just putting out free content, then feel free to click away. Dislike this if you want. You know, do whatever you think is right. But yeah, I'm just going to get into that. So the first reason is because I am a content creator and a coach before I am a player. There's a major conflict of interest with a lot of these writers because basically they're writing about tournaments that are going to happen and talking about decks and showing lists and stuff, but it's going to put them at a disadvantage to show the deck that they want to play and the list that they're going to use, because then people know, what they're going to be playing, then people know what they think the best play is, and therefore makes the competition harder. So there's a major conflict of interest there. And I know for a fact that many writers are not putting out the exact 60 cards that they're going to play at the tournament. I would say the vast majority are not putting out the 60 cards that they play at the tournament. They're probably either putting out the deck they're playing with a list that's vaguely similar to what they end up using, or they're just putting out what they think is, maybe their second pick, or their third pick, or maybe not even a deck they're considering playing for the event. So the major issue that I have with a lot of other writers and a lot of other sites is basically that you have these people just putting out, content that's really not the best they can do. It's like the second best they can do. It's a little bit ingenuine, in my opinion. So I always put out the exact 60 cards I'm going to be playing before any event that's bigger than a cup. So that usually means regionals. I'll do it before intercontinentals as well, but I only go to one per year usually, unless I win Dallas. I'm not going to be going to Oceania. I mean, if I do well at Dallas, I actually might go to Oceania, but I'd say that's more likely than not going to happen, because I'm focusing, like I said, a lot more on writing and coaching than I am actual competitive play. I still go to competitive tournaments, don't get me wrong. It's just, I'm just really going with the intention to get more information to write about, hang out with friends, have fun, and maybe get some money by getting like top 32 or top 16 or something like that. So for me, it's more about the other stuff, not necessarily actually placing well. I don't even really go into events hoping to get, any specific placement, unless it's like a cup. Cups, I really try to get first because it's just a cup, and I like maxing out for every quarter. But that's a little bit aside from the point. Yep, so you're getting genuine, updated lists with me. That's the biggest difference. And I think that is a very significant point. That's why I'm starting with it, because, the main reason people subscribe to these sites is for the deck lists. Like, people tell me all the time, oh yeah, I don't really read articles very much, I just kind of look at the lists, maybe read a couple things about the card counts, and then, look at the matchup percentages if they have that and move on. So, if that's why you're subbed to one of these sites, or thinking about subbing to one of these sites, like most other people, you really want the specific 60 cards that you should be playing. The second reason is I have a different writing style than most other writers. My last article was kind of traditionally written, and by that I mean it was just kind of like lists, me talking about what I think is good for Dallas, and then some other commentary and things you can change about the lists, and then I said a couple things about matchups, and that was it. So that article was like that, and I'll put out those because some people are just there for that. But a lot of articles I put out come at the game with a different perspective that people don't even really think about or bring into their articles at all, and that's because I'm deeply interested in economics, politics, philosophy, psychology, and a lot of other areas other than just Pokemon. So for example, there's an article called A Critique of Meta Dogma that I wrote maybe 2 months ago or something like that, and it's my favorite article that I've ever written, but and I got a lot of really nice compliments on that article and a lot of really good feedback. So if you are a Cutter Tap sub and you haven't read that, I would definitely say go give that a read. It's not really dependent on the metagame or anything like that. It's more about thinking critically and analyzing what you've been told by higher level players or the players in your friend group or your team or whatever like that, and actually really analyzing it and figuring out what is true, what isn't true, and what needs to be reanalyzed, because that's what dogma means. It is accepted information, an accepted guideline, or piece of info that you just work with. It's like sort of your base point for theory. And so when you have bad theory or a bad base point for your theory, or you're just believing what you're hearing, it makes it very hard to decide what to play, what to metagame, and what to do with your lists, because you're working with bad information. And so I talk about how to avoid that, examples of how that is negatively impacting the community now, and I kind of come at it from a psychoanalytical perspective. Yeah, that's kind of an example of some of the other things you're going to get with Cutter Tap. If you guys don't know this already, I'm pretty much the only writer, and that's a good or a bad thing depending on the way you look at it. It's a good thing if you liked my content the most before, when we had more writers, and you just kind of wanted more of my list and things like that. It's a bad thing if you wanted a higher diversity of opinions and things like that. But I like it because you get lots of updates on lists. So in other words, you're going to receive updates from me about how a rogue deck is testing out, or how a list is working for me, and what changes I'm making to it and stuff like that on a week-by-week basis. So it's not just one article and then you have to figure it out from there and there's no follow-up on it. You're getting week-by-week follow-ups. I think it makes it so there's a lot of coherence as well. An issue that other sites have, and I had before when we had more writers, was basically that one person would say something about a deck and then another person would say something completely contradictory to that, because good players have different opinions. And then, some person would write about Darkrai, for example, and then another person would write about Darkrai, and you'd have a lot of overlap here. I make sure that never happens, because since I'm the only person writing, except for the occasional free article, I'm going to write about different decks every time, unless, I'm following up on a concept like I was just explaining. So you're not going to get any overlap, you're not going to get any disagreeing material, unless I, inspect something further and realize that I'm wrong, because obviously people are wrong sometimes, and I have to update some of the information on there. Another reason is if you're interested in coaching with me, you get a $2 per hour discount if you're subscribed to Cutter Tap. I've kept that up the whole time. That's still true today. So if you're interested in that, you definitely want to be a sub, because if you're coaching something as long as you're coaching with me for at least 2 hours once a week, you just save all the money. Because that would cost, over the course of 4 weeks, you save $16, subscription would cost $15, so you save $1. So that's an easy choice if you are coaching with me, or looking at coaching with me, which, by the way, I'm still accepting new people. I'm always accepting new people because I love coaching. And then the next reason is, I sort of have to be arrogant when I say this, because there's no other real way to put it, but I think I'm the best deck builder in the game. So, do what you want with that. Call me arrogant, call me, a jerk or whatever. That's fine. But I'm putting out rogue ideas pretty frequently, so I try not to go super rogue, because a lot of the time those don't work very well. What I do is I'll take a normal archetype and I'll make something sort of out of the norm with that, and then move on from there. Because with established archetypes and things that are already meta, they're good. So it's a good starting point. It can work as a base for a deck. It's just that when you go super out into all these other cards that people don't know of, it's really hard to make something that actually works, because, usually the reason people don't know about them is because they're not very good. So you're going to get a lot of rogue decks. I've put out articles for Miss Magius, which ended up going crazy. People got really excited about Miss Magius in Standard and Expanded. I didn't put out a list for Expanded, but it's really easy to make an Expanded version, and I talked a little bit about it. Put out an article with Kingdra Zorark, which actually was in the Miss Magius one. I put out articles with more rogue, it's not rogue, but it's a different take on the same deck. So I put Zorark GX in decks that had Octillery, and I think that's better right now, too. I think that was one of the better ideas I had, is just sticking Zorark GX in Bulu Vikavolt, for example. People aren't really doing that, and I don't know why. You can run a higher count of Bridget, and then use Bridget as fodder later on by trading it away. So that's just, just ideas like that you might not think of normally or might not see online. I hadn't seen anybody else trying that out. There's also Fighting Garbodor. I know that was like kind of running around as an idea that people were looking at, but I actually like took it and, you know, made lists with it. And I think the standard version of Fighting Garb is super good. Like, that one definitely stood the test of time. As I tested Fighting Garb and expanded more, it was kind of disappointing. But Fighting Garb in standard is super good. Like, people don't even realize how strong that is right now, and it's definitely a top archetype in my opinion. But yeah, that's just like... And I think that very well could just become like a standard archetype, and that happens fairly frequently. Like I brought out the article last season right before Dallas, maybe it was 2 seasons ago. No, I think it was last season, for just straight Darkrai, not with double dragons or anything. And then I kind of got heat for that because people were like, no, you didn't invent, you know, Darkrai. But I did make it up the way that it was played, like, you know, just Darkrai and Yveltal. That was, you know, my concept. The way it was built in standard, and there's nothing like crazy revolutionary about that, but I did do it. I put the list out there, and it was the one that Connor Peterson won regionals with like 5 days after I put the list out. Not even that, and he's a senior, so you can say what you want about that, but it also won a regionals a little bit later. I think it was the next one after Dallas. Point being, I have a history of putting out, you know, really strong archetypes. There's also Seismitoad Bats, which didn't get nearly as much excitement as it should have. In 2016, Connor Peterson got 2nd place at Worlds with Seismitoad Bats. It was my exact 60-card list, and it was on Cutter Tap. You could have copied the same list. I played it at Worlds, but I got like super bad luck, hit some Pyroar decks, and then like prized one verse Seeker that just like, you know, I don't know, just dumb stuff that made it so I didn't do super well in Worlds with that. I was also the only Toad Bats player in all of Top 64 at Nationals in 2016, using a pretty similar list. So you're getting different decks. You're not just getting standard, you know, decks on Cutter Tap. You're getting a lot of different ideas. But the fact that I'm actually coming out with decks that end up being, you know, normal archetypes in the game, that alone is huge. And if you're a sub, you're going to get access to that before anybody else, which is just huge. There's numerous examples of me, you know, making decks a certain way or putting out a specific list and then having a ton of effect on the game later on. That's just like, I don't even feel like I really have to argue that. That should just be evident. So yes, you are paying $15 a month just to read articles from one person, but you're getting better, more genuine content. You're getting better written content. You're getting more to-the-point content, so you don't have to read through garbage. I make all, like pretty much everything, I make it to the point. I don't mess around. So maybe it's only 4,000 words in an article, but it's, you better read those 4,000 words because they have the information you need. And you're getting creative content. So that's why you should subscribe to Cutter Tap. But honestly, I would suggest subscribing, if you have the capacity to do so, subscribing to both Someone's PC and 6 Prizes as well as Cutter Tap. That's going to be hard to do, but if you have the funds for that, I would definitely suggest it. So yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to clarify that, make a case for why I think you should sub to Cutter Tap. And if you like it and you're sub now, please tell your friends, spread the word. I'm always trying to improve it, make it better. If you have anything that you don't like about Cutter Tap, please let me know. I'm always trying to improve upon it. And I want to start live streaming soon. I've been saying this for so long and I haven't been doing it, so there's like really no substance to me saying what I'm saying here, but I do want to start live streaming. I don't know if it'll happen at all, but it's just something I want to do, so that's out there I guess now. And last thing I want to say before I go is that Lily is good now. Lily was bad, but now Lily is good. Now that we have Lele in the format. It's been so long since I recorded that video, but yeah, I love Lily now. It's one of my favorite cards to have in decks, actually, so it's kind of funny how that worked out. Alright, bye.